Michael Macolino. Thanks for coming on to Radio Italia Uno Adelaide.
Thank you very much for having me. Looking forward to the conversation.
Oh, beautiful. Our technology is working just fine. Allora, Michael, so how we've changed substantially from the previous topics from the previous guest. So, Michael, we're chatting as part of my series on entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship with an Italian connection. And so you're a local South Australian Adelaide-based entrepreneur and maybe an advisor to entrepreneurs. So doing both at the same time. I think. But let's start by your background. Then I'll chat about what I'm seeing in your studio. There's a few cars there. We'll talk about that maybe.
Definitely.
Okay.
Cars and rockets and space.
Cars and rockets and space. So let's start. What's your entrepreneurial story? What's your business?
So my entrepreneurial story started when I was 21, so about 20 years ago. I, at the time, was at university. I was studying a Bachelor of Business. I didn't want to work in a pub or in a cafe like a lot of my friends. So I literally got a sponge and a bucket and went to Officeworks and printed out some leaflets and started dropping letterbox drops in all the wealthy suburbs in Adelaide. And started my first business literally cleaning cars, and then that ended up cleaning boats as well. So I did that for a number of years, and that business evolved, ended up developing a technology to purify water during the 2006-2007 drought. So this was back when, I don't know if you remember, we had like water restrictions and we weren't allowed to wash our cars.
Yeah.
So I developed a way where we could wash a car with 3 liters of water with this technology. And that allowed us to be one of the few approved car detailing businesses in Adelaide. So I had a really great business, and a lot of the people who I used to clean their Ferraris and Lamborghinis, they also had a beautiful boat down in the Glenelg Marina. So I ended up starting to clean boats as well. And that serendipitously led to one of my clients who was a property developer. He had a very large amount of water down at North Haven, and he one day sat me down and he gave me a great opportunity at the age of 24 to go and build a new marina development down in North Haven, which was called Crown Marina. So I was fortunate the opportunity came up, and I sold the car and boat detailing business and went into the next adventure, which was property development and building this marina. So that was a great amount of fun, and the GFC created a bit of havoc there, the global financial crisis. So I learned about finance, property development, and project management all at once.
Okay, so you already brought out a few interesting themes there that we see often in the field of entrepreneurship. One of them was that observing problems that people have can lead to innovations and starting a new activity. So, and it's at the interface between suppliers and consumers, I guess, that you get these interesting ideas. So, tell us a bit about this water thing.
Yeah, so the water I actually saw it on Grand Designs. So I saw that in the UK there was a company that was using reverse osmosis water, so 0 parts per million water, and they were applying it to glass, and without any chemicals and with very little water, they were able to clean this glass, and it would the negative ions in the water would attract the dirt and lift the dirt off the surface. And then you'd basically rinse it. And because there was nothing in the water, it was completely pure water. You didn't have to dry anything. You could basically just let the water evaporate and it'd leave a clean surface. So I thought, well, glass and car paint is all very, very similar. So we put a little mock-up and it worked really well. And what it eventually meant was that we could clean a car with 3 liters of water, no chemicals, and we didn't have to have the full step of then drying the car. So you left like a streak-free finish. But then when I translated that across to boat detailing, what it meant was it used to clean a 60-foot boat, which is quite a large boat. Used to take, sort of 2 people about 3 to 4 hours. I could do it with 1 person in an hour and a half. So this was something where I started to realize that what I was really good as an entrepreneur was around efficiency. And I loved systems and processes and sort of looking at a problem and figuring out how I can make it more efficient. And that's something that I've sort of taken through, even to the present day with what I do in agriculture. But I had a couple of other businesses in back in the day. I had a gym, I had a couple of consulting businesses around software technology and things like that. So that common thread around using technology to make things more efficient has always been a passion of mine.
Okay, so maybe you've answered my next question. I was going to say that agriculture and gyms, and whichever described, are very different areas of business. So the connection is driving efficiency through technology.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what led there. So I mean, to sort of summarize, but that 15 years of experimenting with businesses, there was a car and boat detailing business, a marina, a gym, a couple of e-commerce businesses, an accounting technology company, and a cloud software implementation business. So there was a very, very diverse range of businesses across a whole range of industries. But the common thread was, using technology to find efficiency in business.
And how do you feel going through all these different fields of business? Are you closing a business and starting a new one, or are these running in parallel?
Yeah, they kind of all happened through a bit of serendipity. Like there was never really a plan to get into any of these. For example, the gym was when I was working for this property developer. We had an empty space at the bottom of a new apartment building that we built down at Westlakes. And the bank said, "Oh, we need the property developer to put more money in." And I was like, "Oh, that seems, like a lot of money to put in. What about if I, was to go and start a gym in there and I gave you a 5-year lease?" And, cut a long story short, I was able to build a gym for about $5,000 of my own capital. So I was able to build this beautiful, gym that the property developer fitted out for several $100,000, and I put about $5,000 in to get a bit of software and establish the business. And that business I ran for 18 months, and I was able to sell that business. So I think for me, my entrepreneurial brain sees opportunities. And I've never really been afraid of it being an area that I don't know or an industry that I haven't been exposed to. I've always sort of had this belief that, fundamentals in business are the same no matter what the industry is. And it's just a matter of sort of trying to dissect and understand the problems in a pretty systematic way. And you can build that how you need to.
Okay, so that was another important theme that you just mentioned, being better or clearer at seeing opportunities. Yeah. And then doing these things that you say is being about systematic, because often people say entrepreneurs are risk takers. We want people to take risks. Whereas in fact, entrepreneurs are not risk takers. Entrepreneurs see an opportunity and manage risk and try to take out as much risk as they can. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. So, risk is something that I've always, on the surface, it looks like I've taken a lot of risk, but it's been very, very calculated. The time that I spent in property development during the GFC was an absolute masterclass in risk management. We were managing millions of dollars in a time that was very volatile, very hard to have capital. And I worked for a person who, was a mentor of mine and learned how he managed risk. And it was something that has definitely stayed with me to this day. But I think for, when I looked at any business venture, it was always about understanding the market and understanding the demand patterns, understanding sort of like what the amount of capital that was going to be needed. So the gym was a great example. That was $5,000. Worst case scenario, $5,000 I lost. But it was a very, very calculated risk.
Okay, two things. So the calculated risk, but also you can systematize these things and have a process. So, Michael, I started to say you're a young entrepreneur, so certainly you're younger than I am. But it's interesting, you've already got quite a bit of interesting experience across different areas, different industries, but bringing a systematic approach to them all. Now, you did mention earlier agriculture or agribusiness. We haven't talked about it. So I think that's nowadays? Is that your main area of focus?
It is, yeah. So my primary area of focus now is the commercialization of agri-tech, which is
Mhm.
agricultural technologies. So really, I work with a whole range of entrepreneurs and businesses around the world that are creating everything from robotics and drones to new forms of fertilizers and pesticides, to new plant genetic systems, really anything that drives productivity and profitability in agriculture. So my work is helping to commercialize those innovations, helping with market entry. So a lot of companies coming into Australia with their innovation. And then I also do some capital raising and investment work in that sector as well.
And so you mentioned companies around the world, because so also companies that want to come into Australia. Where my understanding is that Australia and South Australia is very strong in that sector, certainly agribusiness. But the innovations and new technologies, where do they come from? They come from companies or universities?
I mean, quite often we see them being spun out of universities. Australia has a really strong track record of agricultural research being spun out into commercial ventures. But around the world, particularly over the last 10 years, what we've seen is this convergence of a whole range of different technologies. And that's enabled startups to basically decide that they want to raise a bit of money and they want to create some type of technology, be it a robot that goes up and down a vineyard and maybe does some scouting or does some weeding. There's a whole range of different things, and really it comes from a whole range of pressures and challenges that we have in agriculture and the need to find new ways of solving those problems, particularly around sort of things that are being regulated out of existence, certain herbicides and pesticides,
Yep.
etc. We can't use those anymore in places like Europe. So we have now things like companies building laser weeding, where they use lasers to spray target weeds and machine vision to see where those weeds are. So it's a really fascinating area. I've been in that space for 8 years.
Oh wow, lasers for weeds. I need to. I was going to ask you about that because I know that certainly in Europe they don't like glyphosate very much,
Mhm.
and Roundup, and my wife always tells me not to use it in weeding around the garden. Is these things are these things available for the common gardener yet?
No, not yet. There are alternatives to glyphosate in the biological world. So what we have is this new way of using things like microbes to basically kill that. So what we know is there's certain types of microbes that have the ability to impact the environment in agriculture in a beneficial way. So instead of using chemicals and those molecules, we're able to substitute those for a biological substance. And those biological substances can also be used as a supplement for nitrogen-based fertilizers and things like that as well. So there's this whole very, very large range of biological solutions. There's over 10,000 different biological solutions.
Oh,
And that's being driven by a lot of this, regulation of sort of glyphosate and these other chemicals that have been quite harmful over the years.
okay. So now we need to have some space to talk about your Italianness, but first let's talk about those cars and the spaceship I can see behind you.
Yes, yes. So yeah, behind me, this is my home office up in the Adelaide Hills. That's where I work from home full time. I love Lego, so I think it's sort of part of the way that my brain works. So I've got a Porsche GT3 and a McLaren race car and an Apollo rocket. So I love building Lego. I've also got here, which is one of my prized possessions, sitting on my desk. This is part of the SpaceX Starship rocket that they're
Oh,
building. They're building in Texas. So for my 40th birthday a couple of years ago, I went to Texas and visited the Starship rocket. So in a few weeks, you'll see the next Starship rocket that Elon Musk and SpaceX are building to go to Mars. And I was really fortunate that I met someone there. And from the first rocket they launched about 3 years ago, it blew up on its way to space. And all of its bits came down and landed on the Mexican Gulf. and I now have a piece of the heat shield, which is sitting on my desk, and it is a constant reminder that things usually blow up the first time that you try. So I've got a piece of this heat shield, and hopefully they make it a little bit more resilient on the next rocket that they launch in a few weeks.
Okay, so you like Lego and you like technology, so cars and spaceships. So, finishing up, Macolino, what's your Italian background?
Yes, so my Italian background comes from my father, Alfio Macolino. Our family emigrated here in the 1950s. So we were from the Benevento region, from a little village called San Lupo. And so my father was the first to be born in Australia, but I have a couple of an uncle and an auntie who were born in Italy. So I think my grandparents emigrated here in about 1951 or 1952. So Venusto and Maria. So we've always been based in Adelaide. They moved here. They built a house in Enfield, and my father and his brothers and sister they grew up there. And yeah, so we've had a strong Italian family. I'm also half Greek as well. So my mother is from Corfu in Greece, and she emigrated here when she was 8. So sort of a bit of a weird background of half Greek, half Italian.
Yes, and have you visited the home places,
I
hometowns?
have.
Yes.
Yes, yeah. So I went there about 20 years ago, and went there with my sister and my parents, and yeah, really it was an amazing trip. We were able to visit a lot of places through Italy, but we also went and visited the village in San Lupo, and spent a couple of days there visiting. We've got a few relatives that still live there. And yeah, we were able to sort of spend some time with them and get to know our family heritage a little bit more.
Ah, cool. And now with Greek and Italian, it might be difficult to maintain the languages. Do you speak any Greek or Italian?
Unfortunately not. It's you know, I don't speak either language. I can probably I can understand it, which is quite weird because you know, growing up we'd always go to nonnas on a Sunday night, and my dad would often be speaking Italian to my grandparents. So I picked up a lot in my childhood to be able to understand what they were saying and comprehend it. But my family and even my grandparents, you know, we always spoke English around the dinner table, and both of my grandparents spoke very good English. So there wasn't really that need to sort of learn Italian as a younger kid, to be able to communicate. So it never really got passed on. But also, you know, my father is a lawyer, and he was always, I think he really appreciated the opportunity that he had in Australia. And he was very much, you know, sort of, you know, telling my sister and myself that, you know, you're Australian. We're very proud of our Italian heritage, but, you know, Australian and English was always something that we spoke around the dinner table. And but yeah, probably need to learn a little bit more, I think, if I'm going to go for a trip back.
And there must be interesting opportunities in agribusiness, agri-technology, from Italy, well, and between Italy and Australia. There's some areas that have the same sort of water problems that we have, and as you said, they're very strong on avoiding things like glyphosate in their cultivations. Okay, well, thank you very much, Marco Macolino, for coming on to Radio Italia Una Delay to give us your story. And it's lots of interesting themes came out, so very pleased about that.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for having me. It's been a great conversation.